We're on a mission. We're on a mission.
You're not going to want to miss this.
You're not going to want to miss this mission because our mission today, well, it wasn't today, but our mission when we did this mission was to build the world's greatest accent wall. Accent walls, technically. And to do that, we needed a few things. And a few things that you can only get from one very specific place.
Rona Plus.
A store.
It's a Canadian box store.
A Canadian box store that has it all. And because we are low-key geniuses, we ordered everything in advance. Then, when it was ready, we arrived. We took it out the exit door, which we don't recommend, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. But then, we got to building. We measured twice, we cut once, we did all that stuff. We did all that good stuff properly, because that's how we build.
Yeah, but the first thing we did was we prepped the room. So this is the wall we were going to build the accent wall on. So we got rid of the old baseboard and we got that plug prepped because that plug sitting there, it wasn't going to look good with this kind of accent wall.
No, it wasn't. So after we rolled out the old ram board and made sure that the floor was protected, because inevitably hammers will be dropped, nails will be dropped, paint will be dropped.
Tell us what else will be dropped, Stevie.
That's the only things that can be dropped. But once your floor is protected, you're ready to build. And in this case, that meant changing the plug out because we knew that with a ribbed panel like the one we were installing here, how the plug looks in that ribbed wall is actually pretty important. You can't just cut out a square or a rectangle and hope that it looks good.
Well, you could, and lots of people would.
You could.
We just thought this would look better.
Yeah, we knew that it wouldn't. So what we did was we made sure to center our first piece with the plug directly in the center. So we used a Forstner bit. We found Forstner. We cut out a hole exactly where that plug was going to be. And that way we knew that it would wind up being centered in our wall and centered in our panel, which was important. It's a good place to start. But doing it that way also means that your tongue and groove installation experience will be slightly different than it would if you just went from right to left. So typically when you install panels like these, you're recommended to run a bead of construction adhesive around the entire perimeter of each piece and then fasten it with some brad nails or some 18 gauge nails to make sure that it has a mechanical fastener as well as
a gluey kind of fastener.
That's right.
That's technical speak.
That's the technical term. Now this is great when you're going from right to left and you're able to nail the tongue of each piece because that way all the nails stay hidden and there's none in the face. But because we started in the center to make sure that our plug was center and center of each piece, it meant that every piece on the left was going to have some face nails on the left side. Now this isn't crucial, it's not good or bad, it just means that there will be some face nails that you'll have to fill later. But in an ideal world, you're only nailing the tongue of each piece, and then that way they slide together and the nails are hidden and the glue does its thing and you have a nice, firm, sturdy wall.
That was
Got
really
it?
well explained. Yeah.
Thank you.
Really good job.
It's a little confusing, but just trust us on this one. If you can avoid face nailing, go for it, but if you use a brad nailer or an 18 gauge nailer, the nails are strong enough to hold, but they leave a small enough hole in the material that it's very easy to fill. You just want to make sure that you're able to make them completely disappear. Otherwise, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and sometimes your walls aren't perfectly flat. You're going to want to face nail things anyways.
That's true. Even if you plan perfectly, sometimes you run into scenarios where you can't avoid it. So make sure that you fill each nail hole because you will see those after you paint. So fill each one, overfill it, then sand it back once it's dry. Sand it up good, and then when you go to paint it, you won't even know that they were there.
Now you mentioned painting. Now we have to decide what color to paint the walls.
Let's just go with the trend book. This is nice.
So we did what we always do. We let someone else choose, because trust me when I tell you this, not everyone will love the colors you choose, no matter what. So we took these directly from the Trends book from Seco, and we trusted that they would know what they're talking about. So we got our colors, we knew which one was going to be on our behind ribbed panel wall, and we got to spraying. Now, why spray as opposed to roll? Dan loves spraying. It's a little known fact about Dan, but he sprays as much as he can.
I love spraying.
He loves it.
But every single time we spray, by the time we're done spraying, there's some sort of clog or something like that. And so it's a constant struggle for us because we're not spraying every day. But it is incredibly satisfying.
It is. When it's done nicely, you can't beat the finish. But again, it's a real love-hate relationship. But it turned out amazingly well, and the finish is undeniably smooth. So now that our behind accent wall, our ribbed panel wall was done, it's time to get to framing our in front wall, our primary accent wall.
Our in-front wall.
Our in-front wall. And this one, believe me, this is the showstopper. So you're going to want to pay close attention. So on this one, we framed up using some 2x4s. These are 10 and 12 foot 2x4s. I don't know that I need to tell you that, but they are.
You're welcome.
Shows you the size of this massive wall.
We basically framed up a huge opening, like a
Exactly.
huge doorway.
Yeah. So spoiler alert: we're creating an accent wall with an opening in the beginning.
Huh?
I'm really struggling to name things today. What I'm trying to say is we framed a wall with a regular opening in it because we are going to make an arched opening that's backlit with LEDs. And in order to do that, you create the same kind of wall you would if you were adding a door, and you create the arch using a few specific products. In this case, we elected to use a Trimtex vinyl bead to make our arches.
I think it's called a Super L.
A Super L Trimtex vinyl bead. Now
I actually just looked it up. I think it's called a giant L, or an oversized L bead archway version.
the oversized giant L. Either way, it's a vinyl bead that creates a perfect curve if you map it out perfectly. And the purpose of that bead is twofold. One, it seals the front wall and the back wall, and two, it's where the LED, it's where the light source will live. So we're going to adhere the LED to that, and it will shine light down rather than at the back of the wall. So we've faced the entire surface of the new front wall with drywall, and now we're marking out a perfect circle, or the top half of a perfect circle out of that drywall that will be the framework for our second vinyl bead.
Our arch.
Our arch. We're creating our very own arch. So if you want to trace out a perfect arch, the key is to get a piece of string and attach one end to a pencil. The string should be the length of the radius of the circle. Then holding one end in the center, simply draw that string nice and tight and trace the whole thing all the way around. Does that make sense?
That's right. Yep. Very well explained again by you. Then we added some blocking because we knew we were going to need a little bit of strength for this bead to be secured to.
And at that point, it was time to turn back to our trusty Trimtex vinyl beads to create our second archway. Now this time, this archway had to look perfect because this is basically going to be the showstopper. This is what you're going to be staring at. So you want this to be as perfect as possible. So when it comes to fastening one of these beads to drywall, the technique is to first apply a bead of sealant on any of the flat surfaces, and then to use a spray adhesive on the bead itself as well as the wall. Then once you have it in place, you're going to fasten it to the wall using a stapler as a mechanical fastener. So again, adhesive on both sides, some sealant behind it, get it where you want it. Once it's perfectly in place, then you're going to staple it, and that will lock it in place. When the adhesive sets up, it's surprisingly strong, and at that point, you're basically ready to mud.
But tell them what we did here instead of baseboards.
Good point. So because we weren't using baseboards on this installation, we used what's called a tearaway bead where the drywall met the floor. Now this bead allows you to mud right up against the floor and provides a flange so that the mud doesn't get on the floor. And then when you're fully mudded, you actually tear that part of the bead right off. So it looks like the drywall just meets the floor, but it's insanely clean and seamless.
Yeah, you'll see what we mean after when we tear it off. But first we got to mud it all up.
We do, and we did, and it's done, because that's movie magic for you.
Steve was talking about the tearaway bead the whole time we mudded.
I get excited. It's a cool bead. But now it's time for lights, and how not to open the package with the lights already plugged in. Bad for the lights. But sometimes you gotta make mistakes to know what to do.
And who cares? We left it on the whole time.
It's way more interesting to see us install them lit up. Just trust me on that one. So we're installing the LEDs along that first vinyl bead in the background. And as you can see, the light source is hidden, and it provides a very cool down lighting effect around the perimeter of the archway, which creates the illusion of some sort of intergalactic portal or a magical gateway into Narnia. It looks cool.
We'll talk about that more later. First, we got to sand up all that drywall work.
It's exciting though, isn't it?
Yes, but work has to be done.
All right, we're back to the drywall. So sand up all that mud that's had lots of time to cure. Sand it all up and make sure it's perfect, because the last thing that you want is to do all this work and then to have chunky, lumpy drywall with little flakes and bits.
Little flakes and bits?
You know what I mean? Bad drywall sanding.
Yeah,
ruin a job.
We're just trying to say sand it up smooth.
Yeah, do it right. So at this point, we've sanded thoroughly, we've vacuumed all the dust, we're ready for the final stage of this particular world's greatest accent wall reveal.
Yeah, the tearaway bead that you always talk about, that's coming up.
That's the main feature of this. Watch this. So this is the bead I was telling you about before. It's spectacular, isn't it?
It's not. This other view is more satisfying.
It's the answer to, if you don't want to use baseboards and you want it to look like your drywall goes right to the ground without actually having your drywall go right to the ground, this is what you want to do. Let's just take a minute and appreciate this bead. Okay, the bead has had its time in the sun. Let's finish this accent wall with a few coats of Seco Endurance. Wow, that was really good timing. This stuff it's good paint.
Yeah, try to remember we didn't pick this color. This color was picked for us by the Trends book.
Are you saying you don't like this color?
It's lovely. It's not what I would have chosen, but we wanted to go with the trend.
For this room, it worked. It's exactly what they wanted, and it's what Trend said was trending, so how can you go wrong? It looks great, and let's just leave it at that. It looks amazing.
Sure does, and most importantly, it's absolutely finished.
The most important part of any project is that it's finished, and it's finished well. Oh, missed a spot. Oh, got the spot.
Whoa.
Oh, fancy dance moves. All right, let's land this plane. Our world's greatest accent walls are nearly completed, and it's time for us to reveal them in all their glory to you. After Dan finishes this last roll here, we'll remove the floor protection to reveal perfectly pristine floors, just as they left them, as they were when we arrived, I guess.
As they once were.
As they once were. They continue to be. And now we step back and we can see our glowing archway with our ribbed wall in the behind, our behind ribbed wall, our clean vinyl bead. I don't know why I'm speaking in this cadence. I guess this wall just has me flabbergasted with its raw beauty.
Yeah, but check out what we can do with it and that plug. But when we back up a bit here, you'll see we can mess with the lights and it can look elegant like this.
That plug is good though.
But look what else we can do when we dim the lights and turn it into a portal.
That's true. These dimmable, tunable, playable, programmable LEDs. I think they're Govee. These are Govee LEDs. They're awesome because you can basically turn this accent wall into whatever you want it to be. So you can jump through it. You can come from another dimension. You can turn it into a disco dance party.
We didn't want that. That's just something else you could do.
So whether it's your taste or not, you got to admit, this is one hell of an accent wall. This is